city of Bilbao has recently been transformed from a gritty steel town to a happening cultural center like no other Spanish city. A modern light rail line conveniently laces the old town with points along the river to the site which spearheaded Bilbao's urban renaissance, the Guggenheim Museum. While its contemporary art collection is impressive, it's the building, designed by Frank Gehry and opened in 1997, that's created a stir in the world of architecture and put Bilbao on the traveler's map. Gehry's groundbreaking design helped set a new standard for architecture. Using cutting-edge technologies, unusual materials, and daring forms, he created a piece of architectural sculpture that smoothly integrates with its environment. With the bridges, pedestrian promenade, and art all complementing the building, it's an engaging ensemble.
The garden is the green space within the architectural buildings which surround it. And in London, in the 18th century, a number of the squares were actually laid out and planted before any of the houses were built. Thomas Fairchild wanted to beautify the city. Crowded spaces in cities up until in the medieval times led to pestilence and disease. Opening spaces for the public meant that there was fresh air. So things haven't changed. We still need these green lungs.
It's one of the issues that's kind of raising its head in recent times is how, to some degree, overgrown and how dense Merrion Square has become. It's very different to the original layout in the mid-18th century, where you could see from terrace to terrace, so you could literally see the four sides of the square. And the planting was deliberately planted in a way that you have that transparency.
Starting in the 1730s, these real estate squares acted as cultural hubs, outlets for the nearest entertainment. Architecturally, the city plan illustrates just how widespread these squares are. They're all over the map, right next to parks, pleasure gardens, fields, theatres, and inns. The Georgian squares of London were like nothing ever seen in history and still have major value in the real estate market today.
The 1880s was an unusual point in Chicago history. The city was growing rapidly, but there wasn't enough room to hold all the businesses that wanted to come to Chicago.
Chicago was the perfect location, near the center of the country, the place where the waterways and the rails would all meet. Perfect place for anyone or anything to get anywhere.
The city had to build and build quickly, and so they built of wood. It was quick, it was easy, and it was cheap. And there was all sorts of wood flowing into the city.
A lot of these buildings, although they had this hard, impenetrable shell of masonry, the inside was made out of wood. It was growing so fast, nobody ever figured out how to plan it in any cohesive way. So there really weren't a lot of rules.
Chicago was hemmed in by the lake, by the river on two sides, and rail yards, so the only way to go was up. Now, there was all these technical issues in terms of support and foundations and technology to do the early skyscrapers, but there also was the issue of what should this new kind of building look like. After all, nobody had ever designed buildings this tall before.